Japan loves to call itself a developed, advanced economy. High technology, high education, high discipline. So let's start with a very simple question that should embarrass any advanced society. Why are full-time workers in their 30s and 40s still renting? Not by choice, not because they want flexibility, because buying is no longer realistic. For decades, Japanese workers were told a simple story: work hard, stay loyal, climb slowly. At the end, you own something: a home, a base, a future. That story is dead. Salaries in Japan did not collapse overnight. They froze. Then they quietly rotted. Nominal wages stayed almost flat for over 20 years. Meanwhile, housing prices in urban areas did exactly what assets always do when money is cheap. They moved. Tokyo, Yokohama, Osaka. Condos marketed as affordable now require 2 full incomes, 0 children, and 0 financial mistakes for decades. Meanwhile, the typical worker's paycheck still looks like it came from 2002. This is the core contradiction. Japan did not become poor. Workers did. Asset prices respond to global money. Wages respond to domestic fear. Companies protect balance sheets. Banks protect borrowers who already own assets. Workers absorb everything else. So today, you get this absurd situation. People working harder than ever, living in smaller spaces than ever, paying rent that builds someone else's wealth. Still renting, not because they failed, but because the system quietly changed the rules and never told them. This video is not about laziness. It's about arithmetic. And the math no longer works. Japan's housing problem did not start with greedy landlords or foreign buyers. That's the comforting lie. The real story starts inside companies. After the bubble burst, Japanese firms learned one lesson and never unlearned it. Never raise fixed costs again. Wages became the enemy. Bonuses replaced salary growth. Non-regular employment replaced stability. Lifetime employment turned into lifetime stagnation. On paper, employment looked safe. In reality, income stopped growing. Now add monetary policy. The Bank of Japan spent decades pushing interest rates towards 0. Cheap money flooded the system. But here's the trick. Cheap money does not raise wages. It raises asset prices. Corporations used low rates to refinance debt and protect margins. Investors used low rates to buy property. Developers used low rates to push prices higher. Workers? They got understanding. Housing quietly disconnected from income. In Tokyo, a standard apartment price rose far faster than median salaries. Mortgage payments assumed dual incomes and permanent employment. Neither of those things exists anymore for most people. So renting became the default. Not temporary renting. Permanent renting. A generation that pays monthly, builds nothing, and is told to be grateful for stability. This is why Japanese home ownership rates among younger workers are falling. Not because they hate commitment, because commitment now requires a level of income security the system refuses to provide. The economy inflated assets and deflated people, and then acted surprised when people stopped buying homes. Next comes the cruel part. Who benefits from this arrangement and who pays for it? Renting is often sold as a lifestyle choice: flexibility, freedom, mobility. That's marketing. Economically, renting is a transfer mechanism. Every month, money moves from workers to asset holders, from people who earn wages to people who already own property. In Japan, this transfer is unusually clean and quiet. Tenants pay on time. They don't protest. They don't default en masse. Perfect system. Meanwhile, landlords benefit from 3 forces at once: stable tenants, low interest rates, asset appreciation. Even when rents don't skyrocket, the property itself becomes collateral. It unlocks credit. It compounds quietly. Workers, on the other hand, pay rent with post-tax income. No equity, no leverage, no upside. This is where the still broke part starts to make sense. A worker can earn a decent salary, pay rent for 20 years, and end up with nothing to show for it. No house, no appreciating asset, just memories of monthly payments. The system calls this normal. Older generations often don't see the problem because they bought when wages and prices still spoke the same language. Younger workers are speaking to a market that no longer hears them. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Japan didn't fail to build wealth for workers. It built wealth for owners. Once you see that, a lot of behavior makes sense. Delayed marriage, fewer children, no long-term planning. Why plan long-term in a system that refuses to reward it? Next, we need to talk about the illusion that this is temporary. It isn't. Whenever housing becomes unaffordable, the same advice appears. Prices will come down. Wages will eventually rise. Just wait. This works only if the system is cyclical. Japan's problem is structural. Companies are not preparing to raise base salaries in any meaningful way. They are preparing for automation, offshoring, and labor compression. Population decline does not strengthen workers here. It scares employers. Instead of competing for talent, firms reduce ambition. They cap wages. They reduce hiring. They shift risk onto workers. Housing, meanwhile, is not waiting. Urban real estate is no longer priced for local wages. It is priced for capital safety. Japanese property is attractive because it is boring, predictable, and politically stable. That stability protects owners, not renters. Even when prices stagnate, they rarely fall enough to reconnect with salaries, because credit conditions, zoning, and institutional ownership act as shock absorbers. So the wait-and-see strategy quietly turns into a lifetime of renting. People wait through their 30s, they wait through their 40s, and then the conversation changes. You're too old to take on a mortgage. Your income is too unstable now. The window closes, not because you failed, because the system delayed until delay became denial. This is how patience becomes a trap. One chapter left. This is where we stop describing the problem and state the consequence. Japan is not heading toward a housing correction. It is settling into a new class structure. Owners and renters. Not rich and poor. Not employed and unemployed. But asset holders and lifetime payers. Home ownership used to be the bridge between work and wealth. That bridge is now selectively guarded. If you already own, you're protected. Your asset is stable. Your borrowing power remains. Your wealth compounds quietly. If you don't, you pay into the system indefinitely. Rent replaces savings. Uncertainty replaces planning. Time does the rest. This is why overworked, still broke is not a complaint. It's a diagnosis. People aren't failing to catch up. They are running on a treadmill designed not to move. And once renting becomes permanent, behavior changes. People stop taking risks. They stop forming families. They stop believing in the future being better than the present. An economy can survive this for a while. A society cannot. Japan's housing story is not about prices. It's about who is allowed to convert labor into security. Right now, the answer is clear. Most workers are not. And unless wages reconnect with assets, still renting will stop sounding like a question and start sounding like a life sentence.